I wanted to get into starting off here what's going on with the Firearms Research Center, because that's a new project that is pretty interesting and pretty unique in the academic world, right?
Yeah, there have been there have been several firearms research centers that have popped up around the country over the past few years, and this started kind of as an inspiration from George Moxery. I mean, he's written the case law books with several other academic scholars on firearms and the Second Amendment, and so I honestly can't remember how he and I got connected, but I know the first time we met was actually in Cody, and so we connected because George focuses so much on law, and he hopes the research center will produce firearms lawyers, and that's not just Second Amendment litigators. That's everything within the understanding and study of firearms. And since I come from a much more historical perspective, a material cultures perspective, we thought that our personalities and our expertise might balance things out, because a lot of the research centers, other research centers, are very focused in either law or one subject matter. And so we figured, this is something that might be housed in the College of Law, but we want it to be much bigger than that. And we want to encourage, historians, anthropologists, sociologists, education, the education department, so that we can get the most holistic approach to understanding firearms in American culture. And we're obviously the beginning of that. So that's the lofty goal. But we've got, our two very different personalities trying to pull it all together. And so we've been doing some smaller scale things. George has done some CLEs, continuing legal education. He did one on hunting and conservation last fall. We have a lecture coming up in April from Nick Johnson, who specializes in race and firearms laws. And so we're doing some of these small things. We also do a home and away program with Duke, their firearms law center. So one year we host it, then they host it. So this year's our turn. And so we try to work with as many, groups of people as possible. So we're starting to create the plan, so it's concrete. And George is actually teaching a firearms and Second Amendment course next fall.
Wow. That's pretty interesting. So go down the line with this. What are some of the things you hope to do in addition to some of these events that you've already got scheduled? What are your grand vision? Obviously you mentioned what you're hoping to accomplish. How are you hoping to accomplish that? What are some of the events you're trying to schedule down the line? Like, what do you want to grow into?
My background has always been very much, how do we apply this academic theory to real world scenarios? And so a lot of times when you look at the university structure, it feels very, at a distance, or kind of something that a lot of people don't feel like, okay, well, how can I apply this directly to my conversations, my understanding, especially in terms of how, political the gun debate can be. So we really want to see, the practical application side of what we do, as well as the cultivation of new scholars. And so the way that we're going about doing that, and we'll grow it, is we're actually currently working on a website. We do have a website that's live now, firearmsresearchcenter.org, but it's going to grow. And one of the things that will have is kind of a tab for all of the scholarship we can aggregate. So there are a lot of scholars around the country that do work, but they're siloed. So we want to bring them all together and have a one-stop shop for people who are looking for firearms content from a range of different disciplines. And that will be something that, yes, of course, is accessible to scholars, but will also be accessible to lawyers, to students, to the media, to the public. So it's something that we want to be kind of an overall resource for anyone who wants to know more in a way that is not judgmental. We're not couching it in, here's our opinion of it. It's just, here it is kind of thing. And then it will also have a repository of gun laws. Ultimately, we'd like it to have the actual copy of the gun laws, because I can't remember which case, but there was a judge recently who said, I don't want to just see your writing of the law. I want to see an actual, PDF of the page.
I believe that was Benitez in California.
No, it was actually Benitez wanted the spreadsheet. This was a different judge that wants to see they don't want to just see the quote. They want to actually see the page or the pages where the law is. So we're going to ultimately upload that.
Especially when you're dealing with these older laws, that can be really important to see the actual written text of it. There's been several occasions. I remember there was a piece, I think, in Politico that tried to describe one of the founding fathers as like very open to gun restrictions, and they cited a law that he had proposed in Virginia, and they got the reading of the law incorrect. It was a regulation about hunting on other people's property, and they had made it out to be a regulation about taking guns away from someone. And and then I believe Duke has updated that they have a similar repository of historical laws, but it's mainly just quotes from it. And I've seen situations where Costos Moros, who's a gun rights lawyer out in California, recently had mentioned that one of the excerpts from the laws was a bit off from what the actual law said itself. And so Duke updated, to their credit, the section on that law, but it's, the point is it's important to have the actual first documents, right, for these sorts of things, especially because in the post-Bruin landscape, it's so very important to know exactly what the historical regulations were when judging modern gun laws.
Yeah. And so for us, the website is something, obviously we'll constantly grow, but it's something we're working on right now. And we'll hope to have at least the preliminary information up in the next 6 weeks, because there's so much going on right now in Second Amendment litigation and in dialogue around firearms. We want it to be, not our, down the road, 5 years from now plan, but here's something right now that you can go to that's a resource. So that's part of it. And then there's also the fact that we want to ultimately be a place where if you want to study firearms, you have a place to go. When I was in college, I had to get creative. I had to do independent studies. You kind of have to get, really broad in what you want to focus in, because you can't always study firearms. And there's no program that says firearms history or even arms and armor. The only thing that may be in existence that I'm unaware of would be art museums. You see that a lot more, readily accessible with art museums looking at firearms from an art perspective. But it's difficult to study the firearms. So the goal for me would be to have a research center where if you're someone that's like, okay, I want to study firearms specifically, then I'm going to go here and I can get a degree. That's down the road, but I can get a degree that emphasizes firearms, or I can come and study in the history department, but then I also have the ability to take firearms related courses, and not just, I'm going to do an independent study where I do it on my own, or I'm studying, or I'm in a course about, advertising after the Civil War. And so now I'm going to do that course and then do the research on my own to make it firearms related. So be a place that's much more accessible to students, the future of scholars, because the reality is we need a lot broader of a base of firearms scholars. For so long, it's kind of been like, you've got your non-traditional scholars, your gun collectors, your firearms researchers that don't have the traditional academic degrees. And those people often will produce amazing scholarship. Sometimes I feel like it's silly to say that some YouTube personalities have some of the best primary source scholarship that's out there right now, especially technically speaking. So you get this really good scholarship that can come out of that. What's that? Ian McCollum. Yes. And C. Arsenal is another really good one. The Armorer's Bench.
Is that Ian on the show a couple times?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what they put out there. But
it is.
When you have the non-traditional scholarship, it's sometimes difficult to figure out what's good and what's not. So you kind of have to be around the field enough to know what the vetting system is for that. So you don't have your traditional peer review that you'd get in academia. The problem with academia is the people who study firearms are either few and far between, or, they're in different departments all around the country. So when you are studying something that's firearms related within academia, how do you have successful peer review when you don't have peers? And so there's this real kind of problem within understanding scholarship where we really have to open our minds to the fact that it doesn't have to be traditional academic scholarship, because there have been many cases of traditional academic scholarship, blowing up in our face. I mean, Arming America is one of the best examples of it, where I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name. I always feel bad. I can't pronounce it. But it was this book about, I believe it was colonial America, on firearms and the actual ownership of firearms. And what happened was it won the Bancroft, which is one of the top awards in the history field. But then when he was challenged on his sources, all of a sudden the sources weren't available. And so in the first time of the history of the Bancroft, it was rescinded. And so you can't say that just because it goes through the PhD peer review system that it's going to be quality, because it's difficult to access the information. And just like this amazing firearms research that can happen on the non-traditional side, we're struggling to figure out how we can make sure to vet that so you don't get FUD lore, kind of as we call it. And so I'm hoping the research center will be able to find a way to join the two in order to, acknowledge that there's different levels of understanding and then help correct some of those misconceptions on both sides.